carbohydrates influence blood sugar levels. We're going to look at nutrition labels and talk about a low and a high value for carbohydrates. Okay, so for this one, do we have the tubes?
They're in this.
They're in here.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to talk about what is in our food. In this station, we're going to talk about what are your favorite foods? And the kids, again, posing a question, they can answer them. Foods have three parts. They have something called a big long word called a carbohydrate. They have a protein and a fat. And little sign, carbohydrate, protein, fat. Okay? When eaten, some foods are made into sugar in the body and they give us energy. I'm going to be talking about carbohydrates and the effects that they have on our body. Carbohydrate is a large word. It's a big word. It's almost a tongue twister. But it can be broken down into two smaller words. The first word is car. Our bodies are like cars because they need fuel or gas. Sometimes kids don't recognize that fuel word. Carbohydrate foods are the fuel for our bodies. Small amounts of fuel come from protein and fat, but the majority of our fuel comes from carbohydrate foods we eat. The second word is hydrate. Now, this is kind of a big word too, but do you know what a fire hydrant is? Most of them do. Water. There's water in a fire hydrant. Our bodies are over 60% water. Beverages or the drinks such as water or milk or juices provide our bodies with the water it needs. Carbohydrate foods supply our bodies with water also. So some examples of carbohydrate foods are our grains or starches, our fruits or fruit juices, milk, yogurt, and sweets. And so we will already have some of these examples just set out for you. These will already be at number 2. And again, different types of pastas. I'm not going to set all of these out, but anyway, there's plenty of them. They're very familiar with them. Okay, so carbohydrate turns sugar into our bodies. The sugar is then turned to energy by insulin from the pancreas, which you learned about more in the first station. This is how we get energy to think and to play. What, though, happens if we eat too many carbohydrates? It may turn into too much sugar for our body to use. There's not enough insulin to turn this sugar into energy. So the extra sugar stays in our body and in our blood and makes it thick. Here's an example of what our blood looks like. And the number one question that we always get, is this real blood? Is this real? No, it's not real. Okay. The white pieces are what carries this energy to all parts of our body. When our blood is normal, it moves very fast like this. Let's see which one here.
Hopefully they both, there you go.
So this is the way it's supposed to move, those little particles going through our body. Now, when the blood is thick, it moves slower in our body. And usually we just have them pass this around so that they can see how long it's taking for those white particles to move from the top to the bottom. I'll let you pass those around and play with them. This can lead to trouble thinking and seeing, and it may give you pins and needles feeling in your fingers or toes. This is what happens to someone when they have diabetes. So again, we just pass around those tubes to the students. So what does it mean for people who do not have diabetes? It doesn't mean that it's bad for you. It means that you have to look at the amount of carbohydrates in the food that you're eating. Because if there's too much sugar in the blood and it cannot be turned into energy by insulin, it could lead to diabetes. That is why it's important to choose healthy snacks like carrots we may ask them what are other types of healthy snacks at this point. Now, we move on in the second part to talk about nutritional reading and labels. It's very, very simple, and what we're most interested in is the carbohydrate part of it. So, how do we tell how much carbohydrates are in the foods that we eat? Again, they may have a response or they may not. We look at something called the nutritional label. And I'll go ahead and pass out one of those to you. So each of the kids are going to have a nutritional label, and we'll show them on different foods where the nutritional label is found. I feel like bringing a light here. Okay? Nutritional labels are on food packages and tell you the information about the amount of carbohydrates in servings of food. We're going to look at how to read a nutrition label. So all the information on the label is based on a serving size. So this picture that you have has an apple at the top and has French fries at the bottom. We can look at the calories. It says 80 calories for the apple. Serving size is 1 medium apple. Okay. Does anybody know how many carbohydrates are on the apple?
22 grams.
Very good. 22 grams. All right. What about those French fries? How many carbohydrates do those French fries have?
57.
Yes, ma'am. 57. And so we want to make sure that the kids understand, they identify with the word carbohydrate. They know how many grams of the carbohydrates. We can also show them on the boxes, again, the word carbohydrate, whether it's high or whether it's low. Now, there's something else that we give to the kids. Don't know if you've seen it. It is wonderful. It's called Choose My Plate. It's a great resource. This is how our plates are supposed to look. Most of the time they don't look that way. Not yours. I'll pass those out and show you. Okay, if you look at the plate, you're able to see how many grains, fruits, veggies, proteins, and dairies that you're supposed to have at each meal. It's more important to have a balanced meal with each food group on our plates. Make half of your plate fruits and vegetables and at least half of your plate carbohydrates, whole grains. Switch to your fat-free or low-fat 1% milk. More tips to remember. Vary your vegetables. Focus on fruit. Go lean with proteins and get your calcium-rich fruits. Try to switch out your sugary drinks like your fruit beverages or your juice and pop with water instead. It is important to enjoy your food, but we also need to remember to be aware of our portion sizes and just try to eat what our body needs. So in summary, real quickly, we go over name what a carbohydrate is, name types of foods that a carbohydrate, where it is found, and how does that impact the blood sugar levels. We're going to ask the kids again to identify, is an apple a high amount of carbohydrates or a low amount? It's essentially a low amount. French fries, is it a high amount or low amount? Obviously, it's a high amount. So they know, and then we just go through if we have time with each of those. So questions at the end. Again, I'm going to pose the question. Name 3 carbohydrate foods. And then what happens to the carbohydrates in the body? What happens if the sugar in the body cannot be turned into energy? And then describe how to determine whether a food has a high or low in carbohydrates by reading a food label. Any questions on that second part?